I think we're at time, guys.
So
Let's go ahead and get started.
we keep after it.
Yeah.
You're a little dead there. I'm not gonna do
And you give many ones.
that. Yeah. All right, we're gonna call to order our March meeting of the BPAC. Thanks for being here. I'm Adam Lynch. Carrie, would you mind doing a roll call for us, please?
For Adam Lynch,
Here.
Matthew Lahane.
Here.
Gregory Goldstein. Jamie Jackson. Here. Okay. Aaron Frank. Jacob Pastowick. Did he manage to get online?
See him.
Chris Clark.
Here.
Craig Pennington.
Here.
Linda Lasut. Cassie Lord. Ben Matters. Chris Collins. Dee Anderson. Here. Deborah Foltz. Deborah Lately.
Here.
Thank you. Lynn Faust.
Here.
Rob Maple. Jim Lynch.
Here.
Joe Bonds. John Summer. Kevin Brown. And that is it. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, hello, Linda. Sorry.
Hello. All right. And I also want to recognize Clay Murray. Clay is a pending member of BPAC. His appointment did not make it onto the agenda, a really packed policy committee earlier in the week, but he has the support of the Stafford board and expects to be a full-fledged member at our next BPAC meeting. So welcome, Clay. Clay's a representative or an at-large representative on BPAC. Do you want to do a quick one-on-one about yourself?
I can. So my name is Clay Murray. I live just across the river in Perry Farm. Locally, I actually own a real estate brokerage in downtown. Prior to real estate, I worked at a local running store. So very much a fan of safe ways to run, walk, bike around the area. And my representative at supervisor at Stafford's, Tom Cohen, suggested I get involved on this committee after many visits to this board of supervisors based on the lack of a trail from the Chatham Bridge to South Stafford. So squeaky wheel gets the seat here.
Great. Welcome to BPAC.
Thanks.
Is our Stafford representative on the line? I know he had joined officially, right? Or he was voted.
Oh, Greg.
Voted.
So Greg emailed me earlier that he couldn't make it tonight, but he was planning to come.
Okay, great.
There is a caller user.
Can we have the unknown caller announce themselves? Is it a cell phone number or something like that? Who's on the line, maybe under a call in? Is anyone out there? It's probably big oil spying on us.
Yeah, they're not unmuted. We do have Jamie Jackson and Deborah Lately.
Kevin Brown says he's on the phone.
That's probably Kevin.
Kevin Brown?
Yep.
Okay, great, awesome. Well, if you can't get audio working, whoever's out there, you can drop something in the chat, hopefully, or maybe get in touch with Carrie by email if not. All right, we are in position to approve our agenda. I would like to make a recommendation that we move correspondence above number 6, so between 5 and 6, because there's a relevant commenter who's come to our meeting today. Can I have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to move it up on the agenda.
A second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Great. All right, we have a set of minutes to approve distributed in an email late last week, January 12th. Does anyone have any changes, or I'll take a motion to?
Under member comments, E was left off my last name. Otherwise, I'll move to that correction.
Right.
Carrie does that a lot. She gets it right in the attendance and misses it in comments.
We also might want to refrain from using the words Mr. Lynch in our meetings. I'm just gonna, or maybe do you say Mr. Lynch for when he speaks in a chair Lynch for when I?
Yeah, Mr. Lynch.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yes, with the particular comment, I think it's on page page 4 at the top of the page, where it says, Mr. Lynch used the map to discuss. I don't think that was me.
Wrong Lynch on there.
I think so, because you were talking.
I do remember talking about that.
Yeah, that's
I
gonna be
don't
you.
think I would have made that,
So-
even though it's a very erudite comment, I was happy to take credit for.
Thank you, Jim.
I don't think it was me.
Okay.
Got it.
All right, so with those two comments,
Yeah, hold on, I got one more. Carrie, on page, so on page 3 of the minutes, halfway down from paragraph A, after the presentation, there was about development in the rest of the trail. I think you probably mean along the rest of the trail, not in the trail.
Absolutely. Okay, got it.
After Cassie Lord was in attendance last month. Yes.
Yeah, no, she's up there.
yeah,
She's.
all right.
Sorry.
Great.
By the way.
Oh. All right, we need to know that.
Thank you.
And if you ever spell out her name, Cassandra, it's one S.
Huh. Good to know.
Carrie's job just gets easier and easier. Okay, all right.
Move to approve with corrections.
All right. Do I have a second?
That's right.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right.
Just to be safe.
So our first agenda item, our next agenda item is public comment. Comments and questions from the public are welcome at this time. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to make a public comment? Beth,
And we had some.
hello, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. My name is Beth Hunsinger. I am a resident of the Lee Hill District in Spotsylvania County. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for allowing me to comment. I am joined by my mom, who is also a Lee Hill District resident. We both live in the Hamilton's Crossing subdivision off Tidewater Trail, Route 2. And I am here this evening because I reached out to Mr. Lynch following the unfortunate death of the pedestrian on February 1st, who was crossing Route 2 at Glenda's Way. And I have lived in the district for 13 years now, and I know you all are aware of the increasing pedestrian traffic on that thoroughfare. I just think it's so important for this group to be considering that in their advisory work, and as you advise the larger planning for the region, because of Tidewater Trail flowing from the city of Fredericksburg into Spotsylvania County. As you know, there are many low-income communities along Route 2, and many people use walking as their only mode of transportation to get to employment and shopping. So it is not a matter of recreation so much as a matter of necessity for people to reach these businesses. And there's actually a Starbucks being added at the very intersection where the fatal accident involving the pedestrian occurred on February 1st. You're also aware probably of the Dunkin' Donuts that's been added on the city side, the Hardee's there, and of course, all of the housing developments that continue to be added down Route 2. So traffic is just increasing. Pedestrians are also increasing. And I would just ask that this group continue to prioritize that corridor as you look at solutions. I do understand, I spoke at the Spotsylvania Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday evening, and Mr. Yakubowski did share that FAMPO is looking into some federal funding to address some of these issues. He indicated some concerns about red tape involving that federal funding, but as a resident, big surprise there. Resident of Route 2, I would just really encourage everyone to prioritize that corridor as you seek solutions for bicyclists and pedestrians. And I say this also with the knowledge that I have a son at home who recently got his driver's license. He is 16 years old, and he very unfortunately, came upon the accident that occurred on February 1st, where the pedestrian was killed right after it happened. And there have been many, many times when pedestrians have been walking along the road, and I feel as if I came very close to hitting them. I will make one note that VDOT has been very prompt in installing lights at the intersection. Lori Hayes, our supervisor from the Lee Hill District, did work with VDOT on that. They had projected a date of May for getting those lights installed, just overhead lights to have the intersection, the crosswalk at Glenda's Way to be better lit. Those are already in place, so that is certainly an improvement. But what, as a resident, I would like to see from VDOT is just more thoughtful planning of these kinds of crosswalks and how they will be used by residents prior to their installation to ensure that accidents like this do not continue to happen. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to bring this concern from Spotsylvania County and the Route 2 corridor. And thank you all for your service on the committee.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Beth.
We'll be in touch.
I appreciate it.
Right. So we do have some correspondence related to this issue that was distributed. That includes a Freelance Star article, sort of basic reporting on this. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. There were actually two within a couple weeks fatal pedestrian crashes. This one was over on Lee Hill School Drive. Is that right? And my understanding is that this might have been an incident where somebody had a medical emergency and was sort of face down in the road and may have been, run over. But it resulted in the death of the pedestrian. I don't have any follow-up information about that, but I'm hoping if any other information comes to light that we'll get our hands on. Does anyone else know about that incident?
I don't know much about the specific incident, but I do drive that road daily, with knowledge that over the summertime, with the warmer months, there's people walking on. No
okay.
sidewalks, nothing. There's not even any shoulders for people to walk on either. So they're either walking in the grass, which during summer months can go pretty high, rocky trees, all that stuff, like bushes, or they're walking in the road. And I've had to slow down because a bigger truck is passing a person walking in the road, stop in the middle of the road so that truck can go by, so I can go by safely. So it is certainly an issue, and as people walking the day, it's going to be interesting to see any future improvements down the road.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a 2-foot shoulder widening on the side of the road, that's in that case like that where it's not feasible to sidewalk right now, something like that is a very simple improvement.
Right. And unfortunately, we don't have Jacob, our Spotsylvania representative, here tonight, but I'm hoping to maybe pick his brain a little bit later about some of the planned improvements that might be in line for that road. And let's go down to the Cutchin story. We didn't specifically talk about that. This is the one that Beth was referring to. Really sad story. I have met this man a few times. He was an incredibly friendly guy. I remember talking to him on the benches at Hercamp Park. Just the kind of person that would look in the eye and ask how you're doing. It was really sad when I found out that that's who had been killed. And yeah, when you look at a satellite image of the site, is that something you could bring up, Coley? Just in Google Maps, maybe. I do want to break down a little bit. We are not privy to every bit of information that's available. It was at the intersection of Glenda's Way and Tidewater Trail. So my understanding is that intersection is literally the connection between a townhouse community and the Weiss right there. So people are using this road, daily to get to, basically buy their groceries, to meet their everyday daily needs. So there is no stoplight there, but there is a crosswalk on one leg of that. My understanding is that he was in the crosswalk at the time he was hit. But
I don't believe the flashing signals were on. Yeah, that's what the article said.
Right, so the article, yeah,
Self-activated, I believe you have to push a button, but not like the one on the UW campus where you walk through it, they automatically activate. These are self-activated, you have to push the button. So if you don't push the button, they're not gonna activate. They
They
don't.
need to be automatically activated. They need to protect pedestrian.
right. And,
There were no
You can
lights
talk.
there. Yeah, there were no lights there prior.
Drivers should. So.
They added some.
Yeah, just in the past week, that has added the overhead streetlights, because part of the issue is that you could not even see anyone
Right.
in the incident that they had not activated.
People's lives.
yeah,
We've also got a ton of traffic going in there.
yeah.
It's extremely busy intersection.
I'm assuming the Weiss is on the other side of.
That's the big parking lot on the right side,
System wants to protect.
Oh, the Weiss is this way?
So the Weiss to the right.
top right corner.
There.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then my understanding is he was walking from his home to that shopping center. So it was like a 5-minute walk. And one thing to note, you read about groups like Vision Zero, which is a paradigm for trying to reduce or eliminate pedestrian deaths, specifically by looking at structural things. We're not blaming drivers for driving fast. We're blaming that intersection right there, which is ultra wide, and really in many ways encourages speeding. Does not have appropriate infrastructure in place to allow those pedestrians to be seen. There's no pedestrian island refuges built into that intersection. If you're crossing over Tidewater Trail, you're taking your life into your hands.
Yep.
So it's not hard to understand why these kinds of intersections are death traps for people on foot,
Exactly.
on bike.
So what, I mean,
So that,
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I like all of us have, used those, self-actuated, signals. I have noticed that, that they take a long time to activate. I've come across crossings that have them, and I look around, and if everything seems clear, I don't bother to even try to activate them. I just walk across. So I don't know if it would be helped if they could go a little bit quicker, hit the button and
Right.
and they go quicker. I don't know why there's a time delay. I mean, a pedestrian's there wanting to cross,
right. Well,
stuff like that.
I'm not expecting VDOT to be able to explain this accident away, but I'm curious to know, in a situation like that, how much control does a pedestrian have over does the light sort of light up immediately when you hit the button?
This one is on Deacon Road, that's activated immediately on the button.
Okay. Yeah, and it's quite different, I'm sure, when you have a stop light there that can actually stop cars. That's a whole nother level of stuff. But in this situation, you're basically lighting it up with the hope that people will then be nice and stop.
If he was used to that area, and if he went across that crossing a lot, he may have in his mind, hey, I know where to go. I'm just gonna look at cars. I don't see any cars. I'm just gonna go across. I just made a mistake.
Yeah. And I think it's unfortunate that the first thing that was quoted from the police officer here was that he was wearing dark clothing, as if when you walk, you're expected to wear a day glow yellow vest everywhere.
very
I
important.
actually stop and hand out blinking lights to bicyclists that I can't see that I pass.
Yeah.
And I'll go up, find safe spot, and wait till they get there, and then I show them how to use it and ask them if they please be
Yeah.
to. I've done that with, I ordered cheap
Mhm.
fluorescent vests, not from our
Yeah.
agency, but,
Right.
and giving those to pedestrians, because if I
Yeah.
can't see them.
Yeah. I certainly don't blame anyone. Yeah.
It's not very often.
I don't blame anyone for doing that to protect themselves, but I think it's unfortunately a symptom of a system that's really not set up to benefit people who are choosing to walk or have to walk.
The system needs to be in place so that driver error and pedestrian error doesn't mean death.
Yeah.
That's the safe systems vision zero approach that we're all
Yeah.
moving toward.
And, you know,
What you're talking about, a pedestrian refuge, better lighting, better pedestrian activated beacon, all of that stuff. Like,
yeah. And,
it
you know,
doesn't matter whether you wear dark, whether the driver is going fast and doesn't see you.
mhm.
And it's not the vehicle that caused the accident. I see that a lot, where it's like a Dodge Ram ran into a pedestrian. No.
Just
Clay?
Just a question from the rookie. What does this, I mean, what, as a committee, as advisory committee, can we actually do? Do we recommend, okay, we need to, obviously there's lights, that's one step. Do we recommend to FAMPO, like we need, like, highest end is an intersection, or sorry, a light, a traffic light there, or like right now, immediate could be, you know, like the pedestrian crossing like they have at College Ave, like to automatically turn those things on, like, or do we just say, hey, this is where somebody has passed away that we knew and shouldn't have happened, and we just kind of wait for it? Like, what does this committee do to get
This
that in?
committee has planners on it.
So
Yeah.
like, as far as the immediacy of like, because there's stuff that could be done quickly with that crosswalk in like the next week or two.
And things have been moving
to
fairly quickly.
to turn it on.
As quickly as you can expect government to work. We already have a light in place,
Yep.
physical light, and then at least there's been a discussion about an automated sensor. So ideally, we would bring that to our Spotsylvania representative, and we can communicate this to Jacob by email.
Here's some ideas too.
Yeah, and then, go ahead.
One item I'll also add that was mentioned to me also is, I believe Spotsylvania County may have received funding for improvements along this section of Benchmark Road as well. And
Right.
Recent funding we got, so that might be 2028 or 2029, but it is
Smart
something that is, they understand that it is improvements needed, improvements. There's a project to make improvements at this intersection in the future.
Yeah,
But
I guess
right
that,
now, what can you do in between until that happens? Where it actually
right.
does a little bit better for the road.
So basically, you are trying, as the county, if you're trying to get road improvements and you apply through the Smart Scale program, you got, and your project gets approved and 6 years later.
Right.
You get your money now, year 5, year 6.
I think also too, the word improvements might be giving our highway system a little bit too much credit. Say improvements, you are talking about a widening of an existing road. That may or may not include the kind of pedestrian improvements that really would make this a safer intersection.
Hang on.
I'm hoping
Their smart skills stop at Shannon.
that not, am I,
So I have an email from Jacob that says with the latest round of Smart Scale, the county was awarded intersection and roadway improvements between Glenda's Way and Benchmark Road intersections along Tidewater Trail. And the project will result in significant improvements in that area for bike ped safety.
okay, so not a increase in volume?
No, there's new shared use path and sidewalk infrastructure and additional crosswalk improvement coming.
Great.
Improvements also could be turn lanes or middle shared lanes or.
Okay.
Doesn't always, we hope it doesn't always mean widening.
I know, I'm a little gun shy about it, yeah.
It also says the improvements there will result in a median situation that will provide a pedestrian refuge between the northbound and southbound lanes.
Huh.
All right.
So
Well, that is awesome news.
So that's Smart Scale for.
Smart Scale will take a few years. Nothing in transportation moves quickly, unfortunately.
Oh, I absolutely, I am,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously, but I mean, is it part of this committee's, task to, I mean, just to put it on the list for the 5-year, 10-year, or is it also like, here's some creative things that could happen like immediately, or not immediately, but the speed in which that happened, it shows that things can be done to bridge the gap between the actual improvements that are funded by, Smart Scale, and hey, we could actually put these sensors on there and maybe save a life between now and 2028. Is that something?
So we have some influence in what studies are done or where improvements get put. We can help find, FAMPO can help find funding to get things done a little faster. Like the recent Safe Streets for All grant that we were awarded, that money comes faster than Smart Scale. So we're currently working on an action plan, and once our action plan is finished, then we can help the counties find, all 5 counties find projects to put on an action plan, and our group will have a hand in prioritizing those projects. That money will come much faster than Smart Scale. And those are targeted safety projects.
And fatalities would bump it up probably, depending on your prioritization.
Right, yes.
So that will be a chance for us to get things done faster.
So does VDOT own this stretch of Tidewater Trail? Do you know? That's not a county road, that's a VDOT road.
Majority of roads are gonna be county roads. That probably Glenda's the road spreading off,
Way.
could be a private road.
Yeah.
On the south side, that might be a private road, but the other stuff are all.
By private, you mean county administered? You mean private?
None of the counties administered their.
You're thinking, because you're a city resident, aren't you?
City.
Yeah, so
They not.
everything outside the city,
Only the city.
the state
That's why I
controls
love
it,
my
unless
city.
it's private.
Don't have to share. We gotta pay for it, but we can't share. Don't have to share. Okay, all right, that's great to know. And you guys have a lot on your plate then, VDOT.
They're busy people.
Great, and I did take a screenshot of Lori Hayes, who seems to have taken this issue very seriously. And I'm glad to see that Beth attended the meeting. Did you get the impression from the supervisors that there's things happening?
Yes, several of the supervisors addressed my comments in the meeting. Actually, the lieutenant who is over the traffic division for the County Sheriff's Office was there. And he did confirm that that was a medical emergency on Lake Hill School Drive, by the way, but he also, was talking about this situation and everything that they're trying on their side of things, more traffic enforcement leading to hopefully fewer pedestrian deaths as well. But there's definitely a lot of concern on the board, several of the board members.
Okay, fantastic. Well, in the issue of time, I think we might want to move ahead to the rest of our agenda. Does anyone else have any last words before we had any requests? I mean, do we want to have to see if Jacob can prepare an email for us to let us know kind of a summary of what's happening from the county side, and then would you be willing to put something in writing for us about the intersection? Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Does, yep. And we can't forget Charles. That's important. We need to continue to try to honor him by making this intersection safer. All right, great. We're on to discussion items. Carrie,
Thanks.
thanks for coming.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
So this was in January that the CTP met, but we have not met since then. So I thought you would all like to know how our region did. Now, by our region, I mean FAMPO and GWRC projects that were put forth in Smart Scale and funded. These are the bike ped projects. We're going to run these through. Yeah. Slide. So Smart Scale is the largest funding program that we apply for currently in Virginia. We are evaluated. So back up a minute. We are no longer, we used to compete, unfortunately, with Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads for district grant funding. We don't have to do that anymore. We are now in section D, in the purple area. So we are now competing with smaller regions. You can see on the map there. We are evaluated for 6 factors: safety, congestion, accessibility, land use, economic development, and environment. And you can see at the bottom here, 20% for safety, 15% for congestion, 20% for accessibility, 15% for land use, 20% for economic development, and 10% for environment. The factors that our projects are weighed by. Next slide. So this is the slate of projects in our entire construction district. The stars, the red stars are FAMPO and GWRC projects that were funded. The yellow stars are locality projects that were funded. And I will get to them in the next few slides. So the first one was a Stafford project, Lake Hill Road, roadway, and pedestrian improvements. If you want to be put on the spot and talk about it. Okay,
What you have out there is what the project is.
I'm gonna be quite brief.
Yeah.
So basically, there are several roadway improvements, but the pedestrian improvement for this, and this is Route 1. And where the heck am I here?
Route 1 in Light Hill.
Yeah, right, so Route 1 on
Yeah.
Hill Road. This
The sheet?
area here,
That's
the
smart.
sheets, yeah,
That's
the sheets here and the residential area. There's gonna be a new shared use path connecting over here and a sidewalk, and there's gonna be a new bus stop.
The existing bus stop is just a grassy
Oh,
sign.
I'm sorry, a shelter, yeah. There's just a sign and some grass there now. There's not here, there's gonna be a nice shelter.
If you ever drive by and you see someone standing between the Fast Mart and the roadway, they're waiting for the bus. So you'll see it on occasion in the morning, usually most days of the week.
Now, slightly in Fred's defense, there was a point in time where they were only allowed to put up a sign and nothing else.
Really? That's terrible. All right, so that's the first one. Go ahead, next one. Sorry to like back into your space here. All right, so this is a big one. The VCR Regional Trail, you guys are probably familiar with the VCR Trail. We are building that sucker chunk by chunk as we can. This one starts down by the river, off-street trail along the riverfront from Sophia Street and William Street at the Chatham Bridge site. Up here, it's going to connect to the Chatham Bridge, go along the riverfront to the new riverfront park here, come out the other side of the riverfront park, keep going along the river. Here's the railway bridge. It's going to go on up here to Sophia Street. Over here, it's going to come over here to Frederick Street, across the street, over here to where we are sitting. Come along this way. Let's see.
Need some north arrows on these things.
What?
We need some
the-
north arrows on these
I
things.
know, really.
Are there north arrows?
Definite white roof in the very almost center of the
What is the time frame for this?
almost center of the.
Let's get to that next. Let's
Okay.
at the course first.
The roundabout.
Right here in this little room right here.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
This is the railway station. Yep.
Uh-huh.
So basically you would cross, you would ride your bike up here, you would ride your bike sort of through this area. But when you get to the roundabout, which is a prior smart scale application, which should be built at some point, this has a shared use path as part of it. So there'll be a shared use path as part of all this, and it's going to connect with the existing VCR trail to the city.
And Carrie, is that not a bus?
What?
Is that not a bus right there?
Oh, yeah, and there's also a bus stop. Yeah. new bus
Right
stop.
over here.
That's where. I used to use the
road now.
Fuzzy on the road.
This is the-
Oh, yeah, there it is. Let's pull up.
It was
Yes,
good
bus.
break.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, the bus pull out. It was moved a couple of times.
Yes.
That's where it ended up. All right, at the end of the VCR trail, the terminus, you're familiar with it. There's going to be a new bridge, and that's not part of this, but there's going to be a new bridge over the Hazel Run River. Once that's built, then we go back to this, and this is going to be taken all the way to the I-95. So this new terminus here, be at the end of the it'll come up to the underneath of the I-95. We have big plans to tunnel under the I-95. We have a study. Don't go.
Tunneling under
I'll write it
is
down.
Less expensive than building over.
Well, yeah, that's true. So we currently have a study where we're looking at it and we're doing engineering and we're going to find out how to do it because we want to connect this with the Pennsylvania side.
Right. So
So this is funded. This is going to be built.
awesome. So at the end of the day, this smart scale funding is going to connect from the Stafford side by way of Chatham Bridge all the way through the city by the train station and onto VCR Trail as far as 95.
Yes.
Boy, that's awesome.
What's the Stafford side? What's the Stafford side we represent?
So Chatham Bridge connects the Stafford side. So it connects into the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail. Do they
So,
still call it that?
Belmont, yeah.
The Belmont Trail,
Belmont Trail.
which connects to Chatham and ultimately gets you to Falmouth. But
So you'd be able to go all the way from Route 1 Falmouth Bridge on the Stafford side, all the way to I-95 by the Idlewild neighborhood.
and ultimately, hopefully someday Ferry Farm as well, if that trail can get run through there. So we're seeing the foundation of a really awesome regional trail network here, getting through a pretty tough area. So, I mean, to me, that's such a huge win.
I see Kingswood Boulevard. Is there gonna, it's not noted there, so I'm assuming, like, would it be up to the HOA there in Kingswood to have some
Question.
access right there? I actually sold that house right there beside it with I mean, no joke. And they were talking about, I mean, like 4 years ago, he's like, HOA is gonna have us as a trailhead right here. And we would like disclose that potentially to the next owner, like right there
So that's gonna be decided at a later point.
of the
Like,
HOA.
Need some access to get equipment in there to build the trail.
Right.
And I believe the HOA was talking about leaving that access and building it as an access.
Cool. Okay.
You would think that the people of Kingswood would want to be able to access
Just not that,
this
not that
awesome
house right
trail,
there, that
right?
house right
You can hike a bike through it to get to the city now. Okay.
Right. It's a two-way street. Yeah.
I'm just curious because
Uh-huh.
I'll come later.
Yeah. But we'll talk about timing.
Okay, like I'm dying
Oh.
here.
Yeah.
This is all great, and it's planned, but the CTV still has to sign off on it.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. I should have made that point. I've given this presentation like 3 or 4 times, and I have made that point every time until tonight when I got overexcited with my people.
Yes, yes.
So what Linda is saying is, this is the recommended funding scenario by the CTV staff. Recommended projects.
And those are ranked in order of basically strength and how they advance the goals of the Smart Scale program.
Actually, these aren't, these.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
Okay.
My score.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, yes. But the CTV has to all come together, and in June, we will know the final grouping. So
will be funded, right?
what will absolutely be funded. It could change.
All right.
It doesn't normally.
Right.
Not just sign off there, because this is the
Yeah.
deal.
Right.
Like every round, it doesn't normally change, but it could change. This is likely going to be.
Just so I'm understanding, so that project we just saw, or that was coming around the river and everything, that's a $14 million project, if I'm looking back?
Yes.
Right.
This whole.
All of it.
No,
that
no,
just gets you to-
is it,
Right.
The VCR,
16 million.
16.6.
what's the
So
bike?
the 15 is the one I haven't shown you yet.
Oh, sorry, okay.
That's okay.
Oh, very exciting.
So the next one is Dixon Street. So as you guys probably are familiar with, Dixon Street coming out of Fredericksburg is 4 lanes until it isn't near Dixon Park. So that's going to widen it the rest of the way out. And then we're going to have a shared use path that connects us to the paths in Dixon Park. Their shared use path running to Dixon Park, and they're going to connect here to a shared use path here. That connects to shared use paths that Spotsy is building out on Route 2, which are eventually going to turn down Benchmark Road and become part of the East Coast Greenway.
So the expansion of this section of Dixon Road, Dixon Street, is going to go from basically the Dixon Pool to where now?
Right.
You see Beulah Salisbury Drive, is that right? Where is that?
Just go all the way to the airport, isn't it?
No,
Other
it's
side of
not
the,
that
other
far.
side of the park.
Yeah, it's just the other side of the.
Right before the
One,
Oh.
It's highlighted, right?
one thing I'll mention with this
Oh, it's
project
just that one.
is Carrie is mentioning that this is a widening project in this section.
To get to the airport.
After this section, Spotsylvania has a widening project as well.
Yeah,
That goes
Like it,
Where's that?
New Coast.
not to New Post, no.
Yeah, to the airport, I think.
it's just also
Some of that.
connecting with Spotsy's project. So Spotsy has a widening project along with a shared use path project, and it's just all connecting together.
Okay.
Okay.
So that the road and the bike.
And it'd be a lot of money for one.
Smart Scale is going to fill the gap between Spotsy's project and the city.
Spotsy's basically building the East Coast Greenway out that way, and so this is
Okay,
So there you go. That's that one.
great.
This is the $14 million project. I see you looking at this. So I put all these on one page, partly tongue in cheek. This is Kings Mill Drive, all the way to Harrison Road, down Route 1. And it's a combination shared use path and shared roadway. But what I mean by roadway is service road, like where cars aren't really driving much anyway. All the way down there.
Can you bring this up in Google Maps, maybe?
Yes, let's bring it up in Google.
Let's do that.
It's not gonna really tell you.
Will go all the way to
It's
almost,
gonna,
almost the landfill, like all with it, it's gonna do the whole.
No, it's running on Route 1 from Kings Mill Drive to.
it's gonna connect with the VCR trail on Kings Mill Drive, like right where it crosses.
Right.
All the way to Harrison Road.
Go through like Twin Lakes.
Spotsylvania is building a shared use path along Harrison Road.
All right.
So it's gonna connect there. So if you,
That top one is like,
I need some data.
so if you give it a few years, we're gonna have a whole lot of trail.
yep, right there.
Okay, so we're looking at on the west side of Route 1.
This is one a little bit. Down to Harrison Road. That is. There it is. It's down here.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
keep going.
So there's Harrison Road, and there's Kingsville Road. Wait.
Oh. We moved all that.
Okay, good.
There we go.
So much.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And it'll go all the way,
This is just on Route 1.
Just
This is
Route
on
1.
Route 1.
okay.
So here,
So Spotsy's
there.
job is to take is gonna do Harrison Road
Spotsy's
to
gonna, Spotsy's
Kingswood.
planning as they widen Harrison Road
Uh-huh.
to build Heritage Top.
That's a death trap, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But-
dangerous.
But
Yeah.
they're planning to widen Harrison Road and build shared use path as they do that. And they've got parts of it proffered, so they're putting it in as it gets proffered and developed.
On that last slide though, of the 14, however many were on there, so you said you're using some of the utility roads? Service
Some of
roads?
the service roads, yeah, so you see right here, there's service road?
Yep.
Yeah, so part of that is gonna be, so where the cars are parked, the cars won't be able to park there.
Okay.
Take away parking areas.
Well,
It's not even used a lot.
It's not, it's used car lots, their cars are for sale.
Oh, okay.
And in some cases,
Okay.
they don't have the right to do it, they're just doing it, so they're gonna have to stop doing it. It's gonna be like.
Yeah. So, is this expected to make the funding cut as of right now? This is funded
Well, like
pending CT
Linda said,
fees.
usually it doesn't change. Usually this
Yeah.
list is the list that gets it. This is the 5th round, so usually it doesn't change.
Right.
Now, have they instituted? So prior, they would always approve bike ped infrastructure as part of a project, but then the project would get more expensive and the first thing they would cut out is bike ped.
But this project is just like that.
Yeah, but haven't they put something in place where they get penalized now for doing?
It's just,
So many were doing it.
Once it gets approved through the Commonwealth Constitution Board, there are no changes unless the court's something traumatic. And
The only way that you can change it is you go to the Smart Scale Rescoring Committee.
Right.
And if the change does not drastically affect your score to where it wouldn't have received funding and they're okay with it, the committee's okay with it, you can reduce or change the scope of your project, but to a very, very small extent, essentially. So you do not see any major changes to projects generally. And if you do change a project in a major way, you will lose out on the Smart Scale.
So if you're underfunded, for some reason, the cost estimation came out to 2 million, and that's what you requested from Smart Scale, and it ends up being 3 million, the applicant is responsible for that difference. I've never seen so many bike ped projects being.
oh my gosh, I know.
And FAMPO is taken the lead on that. Very particular. So I've worked in other places across the country and this is the first.
So why do you think that is, that we're so successful this round with bike ped projects? Is it A, Smart Scale is a great program, which I think it is.
Slide.
Is it B, we have an awesome transportation planning group? Or C,
Slide.
is it like
Slide.
something else?
Is there any?
And
way that
FAMPO
this
was integral in this happening.
Like people really
Here,
dig
right here?
about in.
Maybe.
Oh, is it big?
Yeah, I mean, is it?
So before we were in, FAMPO was in type A.
Oh, and you're
And
fighting
we were
Northern
going up
Virginia.
So we were eating it.
Taxing authority.
Yep.
And they
Yeah.
could leverage millions of dollars where we
Right.
couldn't, so we wouldn't score very well. And FAMPO,
On the other big
Matthews.
5% for safety.
Yeah.
If you were in category A.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's
yes,
huge.
correct me.
These are
So-
huge differences.
Matthew,
So the type
Congested, the
The
less.
type A, B, C, D here is how your projects are scored.
Northern Virginia.
So every category gets a percentage. So for instance, we changed our congestion percentage from, and our safety percentage.
a lot.
The funding pots that Carrie and Leadership was talking about are in the Fredericksburg VDOT district. So these type A, type B is not a funding pot, just how your project is scored.
Right.
Fredericksburg funding, Fredericksburg district grant program pot, which is DGP funding pot, goes up against all projects in the Fredericksburg district, which is Jersey and the Northern Neck and Middle Neck counties.
And
But if you want to go back further, the reason we were in that type A is because at that time, we thought we were going to have the toll road authority.
Yeah.
And would have money to leverage.
If you go into the scoring of these projects, you'll notice they get a I get a very good score in the land use category. Very, very good score in the land use category.
yeah, at the end of my, at the very end of my presentation, you can see the scorecards and the land use one, really, really high.
okay. Well, do we need to keep moving here and stop patting ourselves on the back quite so hard?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry to slow the ship down.
I mean,
That's great to know. I'm really glad.
that all this bike
Yeah.
is getting passed, and like, it pays to just go, hey, why don't we do this? You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I just do that, like with this.
Mhm. I was gonna say, yeah.
They had a pipeline study and they didn't know which thing to pick out of the pipeline study, and I was just like, well, hey, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
For reals, and
This was so bold, it wasn't even in the city's comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that's why the sidewalk exists.
I know, so,
Spotsylvania was like, I don't know about that.
yeah.
I was like, well, my Craig likes it.
Huh.
Like literally, that's how it went.
Yeah.
So we just did it.
Uh-huh.
One.
Great.
The only project that was missed was the Lafayette Boulevard bike ped improvements.
Yes.
We'll get there.
You're gonna get it next
It's like
time.
it's
You're gonna break it
supposed
up in chunks and get it next time. We're gonna do it. Okay, next. Anyway, there you go. So final funding scenario in June, and then the projects will be given UPC numbers and added to the 6-year plan. So it'll be 6 or 7 years.
So that's your question, Lynn. When is it gonna happen?
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years.
So you'll see a revised CPC funding scenario in April. It'll have to go through public comments and the public hearing for approval in, I guess, June, for the state's FY24.
So it has to be completed between 24 and 29. What if they don't complete smart scale?
You generally have a few years to complete your projects, but after a certain point, for lack of a better term, they start to get mad at you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
try to move you along, and if they
Yeah.
have the right to take away at certain times.
But
Epic ride.
But what sometimes happens is
That would be fun.
they won't necessarily, like, they won't take the funding away from you necessarily. They might just take it over themselves. Bridge. To use the restroom. But yeah.
Thanks. I do like Smart Scale a lot personally. I think it's a really great program. Really good. Yeah.
So it's a 5-year, so they're not gonna,
6 year.
so when are they gonna take the project again?
It's a 2-year cycle.
2-year cycle. So they'll take projects in 2 years from now.
Okay.
Really
25.
starting this fall.
It's like 18 months to develop a project though. We're already starting.
We've already had meetings.
Yeah.
and found
Yeah,
out.
he does already restarting the process again,
So
but
they said a 6-year every 2 years? So
Yeah, so the VDOT has a 6-year cycle for funding projects. That's a fiscal cycle.
Okay.
But every 2 years, they take new projects for this
And-
particular funding program.
And you get money in the 5 and 6 out year. So year 5 and year 6. This year is FY 28 and 29. Next round, Smart Scale round 6, which will come, I guess, next summer, for approval in January for 2025, will be for FY 30 and FY 31. So it generally gives you six.
Be here before you know it.
It'll be, yeah, 5 years to build the project. You generally do a year for engineering, a year for right of way, 2 years for construction, but it varies considerably.
We're building these roads for our children, not for
So
be in our chairs.
Yeah. I'm gonna be that today.
is that round or conclusion? Okay, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Pretty quick for.
Yeah. We've been working on 95 for 6 years, so.
Like, give or take, give or take a few years.
All right.
There you go. Any questions?
Cool.
All right, very good.
And
Great.
these are just like extra slides if you want to know, the score on different things on each one of the projects.
We have this on our agenda, right? We want to bring it up.
Yeah,
I'd prefer.
yeah, in your packet. Yeah, this was not part of the presentation. These are additional slides if you
Yeah.
want to look at it yourself.
Thank you so much, Carrie. All right, next item. Matthew talking to us about the Falmouth Bridge bike and pedestrian crossing, where the good news ends.
This is-
Sad news begins.
This is the fun one. I just want to very emphasis on, this is a conceptual graphic. This is not a, here's what we're going to do or anything, just something that Ian Allis, the FAMPO administrator, presented at the policy committee meeting a while back. So I figured this was a good starting off point for this discussion. This is not happening. There is no plan to do this. Nothing, just want to throw that out there. I think this was done a couple years ago, but just wanted to make sure I was clear on that before we kind of started. So I guess as some of you know, VDOT is doing stated good repair improvements along with some federal money on the Route 1 bridge. If any of you have walked, driven, rode a bike across it, it's in pretty bad condition. So they're making improvements to the bridge essentially so that there aren't issues like that. The current plan is it's still going to be, 4-lane section, maybe expand the sidewalks a little bit, but it'll be essentially the same bridge as is now. So I just wanted to start it off with that, more so just a discussion point. Just wanted to bring up the committee, and this is kind of what's happening currently, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
What's causing the limitations on like any kind of
The-
creativity?
The structure of the bridge. You cannot put anything more off to the side of the bridge because of the weight of what you'd be adding. The bridge cannot handle anything else.
So that top red line is where they want to put a shared use.
That is
Not-
one
There's
alternative.
one alternative.
That's like conceptual.
Chatham, they have the same
Yeah.
base substructure.
They didn't, it was a different substructure, so they were able to build a new bridge and integrate the shared use path. It was a much wider
Okay.
obstruction.
Substructure, so you can't take those two sidewalks and squeeze them on one side.
No, you can't.
They're cantilevered. So it's just different, built differently.
Yeah, so the substructure holds the roadway, and then there's, a 6 feet cantilever off to the side that holds the sidewalk on both sides. You can't shift it to one side.
Got it.
So, and you can't extend the cantilevers much further than they already are because of the weight of what they would want to add. The bridge cannot handle it.
Right, okay.
Actually, with the Chatham bridge, was it not taken to the pylons, all the way down to the pylons, and the whole top part was replaced?
Do you happen to know more about that? No, I'm not certain the specifics of how that project was done, but it was a
That was it.
pretty
I
large
think they did.
rebuild.
I think the answer is yes.
It was a pretty large rebuild. One of the
They
things
tore
that-
the whole top off, just down to the piers. And
I
then-
guess the option of
Yeah.
the whole top part off here, would basically you'd have to close Route 1.
which is not,
Which is pretty much
Yeah.
non-starter.
yes.
Take it all.
Is the idea of a new separate bike ped bridge across there, is that a lively idea?
I wouldn't call it lively, but it's an idea.
So,
I mean, that's what this is proposing.
yeah, well, I see it, yeah, and how do we determine whether or not that's a good idea worth promoting?
Well,
Is
it's gonna be more expensive than if you integrated it into the structure like they did on Chatham Bridge. I have issues as a river steward with putting more piers onto the riverbed. I'm frustrated to see that they couldn't find a way so far to get a bike ped on there.
We rang them. We had many meetings.
Well, they're
We really, but it's really, seems impossible. Like they really seems like it can't be done.
so it's not so much a political will, it's just an engineering
Yeah, it's
impossibility.
very impossible.
One runs Maine to Florida, isn't there, and there's got to be other places where Route 1 has had to be, I'm not saying close Route 1 down, but I'm saying that the bridge is in disrepair. They're old bridges going across Route 1. And there was some sort of way to redo where the existing structure is. I mean,
Yeah, and this,
how do other states or within our own handle when you've got a disrepairable bridge and it's Route 1?
yeah, one thing I'll point out with this project is you'll notice on the Stafford County side, there's a number of buildings right there, right up against the roadway. That is a main issue in terms of right of way, and historic character of the buildings that are there. You don't really have the right of way to expand the bridge at all either, which certainly isn't an issue as well.
Just as an observation, I feel like the times that I've run across that bridge, I've hated it. And it's, you know, 'cause you're also raised up and it's shaking. So I feel like as far as use goes, it's those sidewalks are used for folks, like, if their only form of transportation. And two-way actually makes sense. Whereas the Chatham Bridge has lent itself to more recreational use and, you know, just normal walking path. I mean, so I don't, as much as I want to see like just a purely, you know, awesome trail or some type of shared use path, it makes sense that space is.
Even if the, even if some walkways could just be a little bit wider, would be a
Or
big
safer.
big help. I know,
Ladder.
Well, are they gonna be able to do that? Do we know, Matthew, if they're gonna be able to expand the sidewalks from 4 to 6 feet maybe, or like?
I'm not sure. the
I think that
specifics.
we've gotten out of them that they're able to expand the sidewalks a little bit.
Okay.
Like as much as they promised.
Any bit will help.
They promised us that they
So-
would expand the sidewalk as much as possible.
Okay, but
But-
that's a help, because they are narrow. When I walk across it, I'm real nervous.
They're uneven and
Your
they're.
elbow is
they're
hitting hard.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're hanging on to the rail.
yeah.
It's
Look ahead.
very nerve
And
wracking.
are they gonna be cantilevered still? Do you know, Matthew? Are the new sidewalks gonna be cantilevered also?
Yeah, that's all they.
But I hope they're gonna repair or replace the cantilever system, right?
Yeah,
Not just slap on another layer of concrete.
Not sure
right.
specifics. It's a bridge rehabilitation, so I'd assume they'd be doing, you know, what they can to rehabilitate what's there.
Okay. Well, I mean, Jim, I know you have experience trying to get a pedestrian trail onto a bridge. Do you have any recommendations, or just think we should just kind of let this thing go and work around the margins, try to get the sidewalks as wide as possible?
Yeah, obviously the engineers know what you can do with the bridge. And I think as far as the bridge goes, getting some more inches or another foot or two on the sidewalk that's there now, I think would be a big help. I can appreciate what you said about not wanting to put more pylon river for a new pedestrian. That probably is a tough.
I don't think the FOR would fight against a pedestrian bridge if it happens to put a couple pylons into the river, but it wouldn't be our preferred option.
Wouldn't be the first choice.
I think the whole question would that would come down to a new bridge is how much use it would get.
Right.
You know, the East Coast Greenway right now goes across the Chatham Bridge.
Mhm.
But is that the
Right.
best, or did that just seem to be the best given
Yeah.
the new build out of the bridge the way it is now, or would it be better for the East Coast Greenway to come across the Falmouth Bridge, come down Lafayette Boulevard?
And one thing I'll be interested to see is,
Princess Anne
yeah,
and Boulevard.
go ahead, Carrie.
Just briefly, we're talking about the East Coast Greenway, but we need to think about people walking across the bridge, people biking across the bridge, not just about recreation.
Mhm.
We at FAMPO are about people using transportation
Yes.
that is not a car. Like, people ought to be able to get around without using a car
Absolutely.
and not have to go all the way to the Chatham Bridge to get across the river without using a car.
Yep.
So we are definitely for more river crossings that don't require a car.
When this, I think there's an article about this that came out and was posted on, and I immediately thought of a hanging, like down at Belle Isle where they have like the aluminum bridge underneath the bridge, and it kind of got knocked down real quick as far as it's like homeland security issues.
Yeah.
So why is it down there and not?
Because I don't.
It's been there for a long time.
What?
At in Richmond,
The hanging kind
I
of.
think it's been there for a long time, right? Also the.
All I know is what I was told, that it would be a security issue, that somebody could place something down there.
Security from terrorist attack.
Like blow up a bridge by putting the charges on the pedestrian path
bike.
down there.
Sorry.
Ride up on your bike and
Could act
your backpack.
underneath of a bridge, otherwise.
Yeah, can't you get?
Yeah.
You can't take a kayak underneath it.
Yeah.
All right.
So what?
Adam, is it worth us putting some time and effort looking into a new biking bridge across the river at that point? Just
Here?
well, yeah. Well, here or where a logical place would be to have a crossing in that area.
I mean, I'm interested to see what a scenario like this would look like, but is it worth the expense if you're dealing with a limited pot of bike and pedestrian
I
dollars?
understand that.
So
But
that's the question.
on the other hand, we build 2045, 2050, 2055 plans. It doesn't have to be, call up a contractor tomorrow and say, get busy.
Yeah.
I mean, it can certainly go in a needs plan
Yeah.
region. We need another crossing.
Do we have any idea how many people, bicyclists, walkers use that bridge now?
We can find out.
That's what I was like earlier on. I was like, I don't.
Put a counter. See what?
We're currently having counter problems, but
Oh,
yeah.
Well, the downside of that is the infrastructure isn't there right now to know truly how many
Yeah.
people.
Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
Infrastructure was there. And I've had this conversation recently with Matthew, and just to build upon what you were saying, it's great for recreation, but it would be awesome for actual transportation.
Yeah.
Think about it. How much would we reduce our congestion and improve our air quality if just 30% of the people could bike to whatever they need to do within 7 miles of their house? Now, that used to be unthinkable, but because you guys will laugh at this, but people thought biking 5 miles was arduous, right? But with e-bikes,
Yeah.
they will go up to 10 miles, but just draw a 7-mile circle.
True.
And if they would use a bike for their groceries, for going just to Walmart, just errands and to work, how much would that reduce congestion? So we need to stop thinking about just recreational and consider that other part. And we're not going to know until these things connect.
I'm just hesitant to think there's any like, there's no point of interest, for lack of a better term, like right there in Falmouth. Or I mean, you get any as you can go, but you're not gonna be riding a bike further down up north on Route 1.
You don't want to do this number?
It's a squirrely connection no matter what you do.
But going that way though is a little difficult.
I mean, there's residential down north 17, and then you've got, but there's not a lot of non-vehicular traffic, see,
Well, would that promote, smaller shops or Starbucks or sandwich stores, or if you had
Sure, well-
pedestrians that were able to
But
get
it's-
there without killing themselves?
Just so learn that like you don't run or where I've been.
Right.
Keep it further north, then you're looking for development centers that would need employees.
It really is though, it's an uncomfortable experience to cross that bridge, which I assume it probably,
It is. It's stressful.
yeah.
Like, what's it gonna feel like?
It's-
End up on a.
It's like
hook.
somebody
Yeah.
mentioned to me one time,
She runs everywhere.
say, well, there's no need for a bridge there because nobody's swimming across the river. Like, oh, okay. I hear this analogy. I didn't state it very well, but
Oh, oh,
it's like
I get,
determining the need for a bridge by how many people are swimming across the river.
right on,
And
That's perfect, yeah.
yeah.
Maybe the idea is to wait until the improvements are in place.
Yeah.
On the bridge, if I'm hearing it right, the improvement should make it more comfortable.
well, and that's maybe something we can exercise our small amount of political might to make sure that happens. Like, for example, on the Fredericksburg side, maybe we can get a pedestrian pathway that links to the bridge and takes you straight to the intersection with Woodford Street, so you can get onto the Heritage Trail. Work that to make sure that the sidewalk connections are seamless on both sides and get you into an established pedestrian environment as part of the construction. Like, I could see that being a way we could make sure this thing gets in the right direction without
Yeah. I'm just-
overcoming the issue of the bike connectivity.
If you looked at just the residents in this area, if you did some sort of a survey or questionnaire just within this radius to go back to not just the recreational users, but people, if this was like your daily use as a means to get groceries or employment or something like that, if you did something through the city, Freelance Star, Facebook, some sort of social media, and said, hey, if there was a safer alternative to cross this bridge, would you increase your use, and then get a feedback from them and say, I would have to head over to Hard Times Cafe or.
We have a little bit of that data already. I seem to remember taking a FAMPO survey that said, where do you live? Where do you work? How do you get there? And so like we have coming and going data from a lot of different destinations. Kind of curious to know if we could dredge up some of that.
Wait,
I don't know.
what year was that?
It was not that long ago.
Okay.
I think it's been since I was on BPAC.
Okay.
Just recent, 2021.
Okay.
I don't know how easy it is to
So
do that. but-
If the density has changed since then, but.
Back to your, so none of this is happening, or something's happening, what's?
None of this.
That's,
None of that, but like.
Conception.
there's a bridge
Bridge
rehabilitation
is being-
project.
It is starting,
It's in the engineering phase right now.
That is 2025, 26, is that right?
I'm not sure on the dates.
Practically tomorrow. Okay. Well, I guess if anything changes, it'd be great to hear. And as designs get released, it would be really awesome to see those, Matthew.
I think it is important, there's integrations, actually pedestrians and bikes to actually use,
Data from the.
as opposed to here it is, and you can't get.
Gosh, who made this maps?
I don't know who made it to carry. I'm not sure. There might be a name in the bottom left corner.
Is this, oh, this is the study.
Yeah, this is the survey,
Cool.
but it's a bit large, not quite granular enough for walking.
Right.
Yeah.
But, because I think it was more about transit.
Yeah. It's on our website.
Yeah, it's on the website.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we've talked a lot about Falmouth Bridge. So any last thoughts before we move on for this topic? Okay, great. We're over to the King George Courthouse pet plan. Carrie.
So I just wanted to, Chris knows all about this a lot.
Yeah, I hope so.
I've read the plan
Thanks.
about 4 times.
I can do it. So this is what I'm working on as part of the rural work program that I do through. I do work for King George and Caroline counties. So I've been working with Chris on the King George Courthouse bicycle and pedestrian program plan. So Kings Highway going through King George has a fair bit of traffic, a lot of trucks. It's going to have more trucks potentially soon. And it suffers from that problem that a lot of arterial suffer from, being both a highway and a main street for a small town. So I'm trying to work on helping them make it safer. This is the study area we've got. This is out in King George, starting Presidential Lakes, if you guys are familiar with that area at all, but Presidential Lakes all the way down past the middle school, the high school, and the elementary school,
There.
and the mobile home park, Bridge Road. So that's our study area. This is the sort of old town, downtown part of King George right here. All right, so demographics. Basically, you've got two maps here. This is the percent of the population that is non-drivers in our study area. You've got a higher percentage of population over here near Presidential Lakes. This is mostly like school-age kids walking to school. And then lower percentage over here. And this is your median household income and folks who own more than one vehicle, or at least one vehicle. So your median household income is rather low in this section of the study area, the eastern section, and then higher in this area. And these folks have fewer cars. So what you basically have is, on one end, you have a lot of folks who aren't driving. On the other end, you have a lot of folks who are low income and don't have a lot of access to vehicles. So you need a lot of infrastructure throughout so that people can get around without using a car. Study area character. So the Madison Drive intersection, right? It's the site of a large residential development with many school-age children, and there are no crosswalks. Where there are crosswalks, such as Dahlgren Road, which is quite a busy road, there are no sidewalks. Students, such as this one here that I took a picture of, walk to school along the grassy areas fronting the commercial strips where they can. There's no roads to walk. So safety, the statewide VDOT areas for potential safety improvement segments are shown in yellow along the study area. This is not showing up well up here. I need to remember that for next time. These light colored maps don't work very well up here. The intersection of Madison Drive and Kings Highway is a focus for potential safety improvement. So potential safety improvement is an intersection that is performing much more poorly than it should for an intersection of its type. There are a lot more crashes than would be expected. The VDOT Pedestrian Safety Action Plan has named the intersection of Kings Highway and Dahlgren Road as a top 5% priority for developing safer crossings for pedestrians. So all in all, the area needs help.
Hey, Carrie, while you're on that particular topic, that is, Chris, help me here, is a signalized
Yes.
pedestrian.
It is.
In 2019, they put pedestrian signals at the Citizen Center and at Dahlgren Road, and put
They're bar crosswalks.
bar, okay, that's what I'm talking about, yeah, bar ladder.
Two
So we have bar crosswalks that are just the lines that go across, so they're not as good as the ladder crosswalks, and there's no connecting infrastructure.
Yeah, just
I can go hit a button in my building, walk across the street to Food Lion, but there's no sidewalk to go left or right.
Sidewalks, no multi-use paths.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
What I have.
yeah.
And there are the occasional bike rider out there, and I think there would be more if you weren't taking.
That's why we're working on this.
So this is a lot of words, but these are types of countermeasures that you can use for these kind of situations to make things better. So linear countermeasures are a shared use path. You guys are familiar with that, an 8 to 10 foot paved use path used by everyone. If you take a shared use path and you put it next to a roadway in the right of way, it's a side path. If you don't have a whole lot of room for such a thing, you can use this buffered or separated bike lane. It's a bike lane that has either a marked or buffered space, like a painted area of roadway stripes to keep it separated, or a physical barrier between it, like the little pylons. That's a buffered or a separated bike lane. A sidewalk, you know what that is. A high visibility crosswalk, not the bars, but a ladder, for example, that uses high contrast paint styles, nighttime lighting, which is very important, advanced stop bars, so the cars have to stop well ahead of the crosswalk, and advanced warning signage, like people are crossing here, can make pedestrians and cyclists more visually and psychologically visible. A pedestrian hybrid beacon, we were talking about this earlier, you push a button to make it blink, or it blinks because it sees you. Does not stop traffic unless the pedestrian activates it by a push button or other form of detection. This can be good for roadways where you don't necessarily want cars to have to stop all the time with a traffic light. It can be good for like Route 1 because you want cars to go unless there's a pedestrian. Pedestrian refuge island, we also talked about that. So it helps people get across the road safely. So here's some pictures. This is the pedestrian refuge island. You can see this gives you a safe place. These are the high visibility crosswalks. Advanced stop line, overhead lighting. So just a much higher quality crosswalk than what they've got. And these are the linear safety countermeasures. There's a side path, separated bike lane. Sometimes the separation is vertical. They've got a curb, sidewalk. And then this is a buffered bike lane. It's not very buffered. Could stand to be more buffered. But by the way, this is a bike lane. That thing out on Deacon Road. It's not a bike lane.
Yeah.
And the buffered bike lane is only suitable at 25 miles per hour or less speeds and ADT. That's average annual daily traffic. Annual average daily traffic under 6,000 vehicles. So if you have more than that, you guys do.
A lot more.
You guys have 15,000
Yeah.
vehicles.
I was gonna say 13 and 17 are the two numbers that are in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're gonna need a separated bike lane.
What, lady, you have a question?
Just a
Yes, go ahead.
question. Are we, is it always the goal to have a shared use path? Is that the ideal? And then, you scale down based on like the site, or are those almost like equal in terms of like?
Okay, so there's different classes of cyclists as far as comfort level.
Right.
And we want to design for your grandma.
Yeah.
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 So think about your grandma. Is your grandma going to be comfortable on a bike lane?
It's actually my mom. She's on a beach cruiser. She's like terrified of it.
Right. Right. I mean, we can also substitute me. I'm the lady on the beach cruiser, honestly. So
I'm the one on the e-bike.
But the goal, I mean, in an ideal scenario, if you had a blank slate, you would want a shared use.
if you've got the right of way, you want to share use path. You do, because you want children to be able to ride their bikes to school.
Yeah.
Without worrying about them getting hit by a car. Yeah. If you can do it, that's what you want to do. You can't always do. So, recommendations. There are some existing sidewalks provided by commercial proper and in the core downtown, but they don't connect to anything. There are some crosswalks, but they don't connect to sidewalks, and they're not highly visible. With the growing truck traffic from the new 301 bridge and general traffic volume, robust crossing safety is extremely important here. The following, yes?
There is also some interest in closing off Dalton Road to truck traffic.
Yes, that's another thing that
Yeah.
is going to cause problems
Which would
with the downtown.
Kills us.
Right now,
Trucks would come.
Yeah,
come
I did the data.
Yeah.
It's another 2,000 a day, I think, or no, it's Dog and road traffic is 1.6 or 1.7% trucks. So that means, and it's whatever, 15,000. So yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, they're going to be, they're talking about closing Dahlgren Road to truck traffic. So that means the truck traffic is going to go right downtown.
They,
You said
yeah, they would
Down Main
get on
15,000.
via Ridge Road, you know, what you were
5%.
just talking about,
Yeah.
and then go
250.
through.
255, there you go, yeah.
A day.
Right. If you're not familiar with downtown, I keep saying downtown, but if you guys have been there, it's like downtown. But the buildings are very close to the road. The road's very narrow. There's on-street parking. It's not suitable for trucks.
Yeah.
At all.
Would they do something, this is not our playpen, but for King George and Kings Highway, you know how down at the courthouse they did, so you've got like Courthouse Road, and then you've got that
The bypass.
other, a bypass, so you could kind of save
Money
downtown
was
King
no
George.
object.
So-
I'm just, not.
King George is,
Us, but I'm just thinking.
we've done some preliminary work of thinking, how do we create,
Yeah,
make this be Route 3 business and have a Route 3 bypass?
yeah, I think.
They don't know where to put it at this point.
Okay,
Go and what land we will have to eventually obtain and,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
but that the thought is in the head of our community development department that they need to be looking towards that as we continue to add
Seems
people.
like that volume in those trucks, that's not sustainable in a little,
Right.
Yeah.
It
It
really
does,
I can't imagine that going through some of these small areas that we've had in small towns.
and currently that section is 35 and it's gonna have to drop.
Yeah.
In my recommendations here, dropping it to 25 is
I'm thinking,
very high on the
25.
recommendation list.
Yeah.
What kind of worries me is that that section that goes through the old town King George is the only 2-lane section on that area of
Yeah.
highway. So if you get more volume on Route 3 generally, you might end up creating a bottleneck, and the idea of widening, may someday.
There's
Can you not widen it? I don't want to widen
there's
it.
very little right of way.
Yeah, there's,
You'd have to
there's so little right of way that
demolish the town.
I'm having to
Yeah.
like do some interesting things with the recommendations for
Okay.
the
You know,
infrastructure.
actually, that, Chris, I don't know if you're here, but that stretch of Route 3 that goes through the main part of Old Town was widened in my memory since I moved to King George. It used to be literally
Yeah.
a 2-lane road and that was it. Now it's 2 lanes with parking on
Okay.
each side.
Yeah.
So it has been widened, whether it was widened in.
Parking is subsidizing cars.
Yeah, but, okay, but if you're getting rid of the parking to add another lane, then you're turning a main street into a throughway. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, street
So-
parking also protects pedestrians,
right.
which is one
Right.
nice side effect of street parking.
So in other words, without the following recommendations, Kings Highway will cease to be viable for anything but a freight corridor. Local businesses.
Yeah, real talk.
Anyway, so we start at Madison Drive, and actually at Inaugural Drive, there's a small community just to the west.
Hey, Carrie, let me just ask you why you on the western end here. I noticed in one of the illustrations, it looked like the study area went as far as Commonwealth.
So I had to stop somewhere, and the little group of houses just to the west of Madison Drive is the last like residential.
Inaugural,
density.
yeah.
Yeah, that's,
There's a townhouse development there with some single families behind it, and that's,
yes.
there are anecdotally a number of people that walk from that townhouse development to Food Lion.
Yeah.
So
And
that gives us a good end, especially as we're going into our transportation alternatives plan.
And that's a thing for another time.
Yeah.
You're thinking about
Commonwealth.
Dahlgren Railroad.
Yeah,
Yes.
to get us to the trail.
Yes.
Also, Westmont Homes has a new big development going in right across from Hearns Market there. Which,
Yeah, has he broken ground?
no.
Yeah, so that's,
That's the
yeah,
thing.
I gotta go with what's approved and what exists.
To come.
Yeah,
So that's the thing for another time too. That's another chunk,
Another chunk, okay.
Yeah.
we got about 7 chunks here.
another fiscal year. Like this is
We've got a lot of chunks, don't we?
yeah.
There's a lot of chunks in this way.
So,
This chunk. Yeah, so that first section, there are crosswalks. There are not crosswalks. No, not here. There's nothing here. So we have a large residential area here. And then across the street, there's some commercial and some more residential. Post office, little shopping center here. And then nothing, no sidewalks, no crosswalks.
There is going to be a great increase in traffic right there because
Yeah.
Saturday is the grand opening of a new brewery right there.
A new what? I'm sorry.
Brewery.
A brewery. Well, see, all these folks here are gonna wanna go to the brewery and they're gonna be toddling home with no cost.
No.
We can't do that. So yes, so I'm recommending high-visibility crosswalks with lighting and a pedestrian signal sidewalk up here. The yellow is sidewalk. The red is crossing improvements, and the blue is a shared use path. This here is where.
That's my building, yeah, so
That's
that's,
your building there. This is an emergency fire and rescue, so emergency vehicles will be coming out of here. So I've got a pedestrian warning beacon here, so if anyone's walking. This is the food lion and stuff over here. So I've got a mid-block crossing here with the pedestrian hybrid beacon, but I like the kind.
well, that's a signalized intersection.
That one's already signalized, okay. Okay, then I added that because I added some beacon. And an upgrade on the crosswalk from the bar to the ladder. Here is Dahlgren Road. There's a Sheets here. It's really busy. Always full of people.
Very busy.
There are existing sidewalks in front of the Sheets, but they don't go anywhere. So again, upgrade the crosswalks, get the idea. If I go through all these, we'll be here all night, actually.
Right, so much of that area.
Middle school is right there above her hand off the road.
So right now, there's just a ditch here. There's a middle school. Kids walk from this development and from that development through the grass and the mess to this middle school. And they have no way to do it safely.
So that area on the south side of Route 3 is largely county owned, right? So you
Yeah,
have to-
happy to give up some land.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I don't think the Parks and Rec Department's gonna be like the last stand, you know,
Nope.
take
I'm ready to go cut down the tree that's in the.
my cold dead hands.
Every change.
Bigger group of walkers and bus, or, I'm sorry, walkers and bikers instead of a bus. I mean, you can almost do a bus if they're going presidential links and I'm sorry, but
That's part of our hope.
so, I mean, that would be a huge, I mean, that would, huge saving.
So,
This is really thoughtful.
keep going, sidewalk. Over here is the, high school and community college up this way, up Fox's Way. And I have sidewalks going up to those. And then right here, there is no right of way to use at all. It's right up to the road. There's no right of way. So I've got a crossing here and then
The YMCA. Where's the YMCA?
there are right of way constraints. There was no right of way to use up here. It comes-
Junkyard.
Yeah.
And where's the YMCA? I think it's.
You're not to the Y yet.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're still a long way from the Y.
Oh,
So that's why I just have everybody
I'm just
crossing
thinking if
here,
you could-
Linda, and just using this shared use path.
Hey, Carrie, that's an interesting question Lynn brings up. The YMCA is where the sheriffs and the new courthouse, that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Dan, the elementary school is there.
Yep.
We're not there.
It's on there, isn't it? It's
No, we're not that far yet.
the area.
Oh,
I'll
sorry,
get there.
Ken.
Okay,
We'll
good.
get there.
Okay.
So this is the core downtown, and there's a lot of right-of-way constraints for the core downtown, because there's buildings and stuff. So what I got going on here is the solid yellow lines are existing sidewalks. The dotted yellow lines are sidewalk connections that we filled, and this pink dotted line is a buffered bike lane or separated bike lane, depending on what we can get in there, what we can fit. So we're just trying to fit it in there. We may have to remove parking in some places to get it. This is the library. At the library, everybody's gonna have to cross the street. So we're gonna have a very robust light flashing beacon crosswalk safe as we can make it here. There's also gonna be another crossing out there at the nursery, because otherwise it's just too far. There's no, you know, you have to have more than one crossing downtown. Here, everybody crosses the street because there's no right of way here to do anything on this side, on that side. Everybody crosses the street and uses the bike lane and the sidewalks on this side. Then here, the roadway character comes back to a divided highway again. From this point on, there's a residential area here. From this point on, there's only going to be infrastructure on the north side because the density gets much less dense. There's nothing really going on the south side at all.
Yeah.
And the distances between things are much farther. So then we just need an infrastructure on the north side. A shared use path will be sufficient. If people are walking, they can just use this part. And this is where YMCA and everything are down here.
Yep.
Down here is there's some houses, but it's mostly just undeveloped.
So all that's a side, is it side path?
It's a side path, a shared use path. It's a 10-foot,
Just
8 to
on
10
the shoulder.
foot paved path on the north for cyclists and pedestrians to use.
Off the road, separated,
Off the road, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yes.
On the shoulder.
buffer.
Yeah, it's off the road. So there'll be like some kind of buffer, plantings, grass, whatever between it and the road.
Drainage ditch.
I know this is a planning study for now, but have you reached out to the school districts or the schools or emergency services or some of the businesses?
Not yet. This is
Very early.
this is the first step. This is like, I'm running this by the county to see if this is what they would like to do.
Okay. How long do we have to comment on it?
Comment period hasn't started. We actually don't do comment periods for rural. But I actually sent this to Stephen and asked for comment. Yes. But if you'd like to do comments, I would love comments. So, yeah.
Terry,
Yes.
on the Arnold's Corner to Millbank Road side, I don't know if it's important particularly, but the road that, Fox's Way, there's a high school and a community college, which is in the high school.
Yes.
There's also a well-used nursing home back in there. I don't know if that's anything to consider or.
Okay. Well, I do have the sidewalks going to those buildings.
Yeah, you've got it covered there.
Do you have any, sorry,
Hall is right there.
any kind of phasing ideas, what to put?
Yeah, I'm working with them on phasing. So I think the first, like, we're gonna break this all up into transportation alternatives and smart scale over the next few rounds.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I can see there's certainly a couple of different nodes that seem like they're high priority. Maybe start there and then work your way out and eventually, awesome, connect it all. But really like high priority things is like allow these kids to walk to school that are already walking to school.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we shot for safe routes to schools in the fall and did not get it for the middle school. I've got to figure out if we're gonna try that again this spring or not. Probably do soon, really soon. But we also jumped in, VDOT did what they called Ready, Set, Go to help prepare smaller localities for transportation alternatives. So at the same time, we already had this in the rural work plan, then that came up. So that we're really looking at we're probably going to look at that first section from residential lakes to the middle school. That's what will be our first goal, because that's where we can definitely show that there are people walking. And then hopefully, develop more goat trails and be able to say, yeah, now people are walking here. Let's get the next chunk and the next chunk. But it's been very interesting. Actually, I need to call them and find out what the heck's going on, because I haven't heard anything from Arcane in a while.
Yeah.
But it's been really, I mean, there's a lot to do. This year I'm also going to, when I go into our capital improvement plan, we've had our trailways study implementation on it, but have not put no money aside. And obviously with transportation alternatives, we have to have match. So I've got to convince them this year that we've got to start squirreling away match so that when we get a grant, we have it and don't have to react and go, oh crud, where are we coming up with $500,000? Like if we can put $250,000 away a year for the next 5 years, then the day we get approved, then we'll have the cash to go behind it.
See if they have extra funding.
Yeah.
It's up north.
Loudon, probably.
Extra money, if they're giving the teachers their bonuses, but it also could be extra.
Yeah, ours.
Wait, good question.
Just on the right of way, when you say constraints, is that just an unfriendly property owner? Like what makes you decide?
So a lot of counties don't want to try and purchase right of way.
Like no eminent domain?
They just don't even want to try for that.
Okay.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And especially rural counties don't have money for purchasing right of way. So if we can, we just try to avoid a situation where we have to buy right of way at all.
Got it. Okay.
Utilities are usually a big impediment as well.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to that point, so.
Imagine if you want to put a sidewalk, you got a power line, $1 million later.
Yeah, that's why this is like a very preliminary, vaguely put it here. Like when we go there and we see about moving utilities and stuff, it'll be like, oh no, wait, we put it over here, so.
Great.
So yes, I'm presenting to the Board of Supervisors for King George Tuesday and then to our board here in April. And then we're developing projects out of it and putting it in our rural long-range transportation plan and develop projects out of it.
Cool. Love to see a King George bike ped project.
I told, I guess since I got roped into this, I told my kids, one day we're going to leave our house in Hop Yard and we're going to get on a shared use path and we're going to ride our bikes to your grandparents who live right next to where we talked about that accident, because they're on Brook Drive, which is one of the original neighborhoods over there. And I'm like, you could see, like, I'm slowly seeing like how we're getting there and going, this really might exist. I might be 70 when it's done, but it could actually exist.
Awesome. Great. All right. Is that all for our presentation there? Great. Sounds good. All right. The next item is me. This is one I haven't had a lot of success on, is the designation of a BPAC representative. It turns out that both Matthew and I are not really regularly available to attend the FAMPO policy committee, which I know this kind of sucks because, Kara, you went out there and got us a spot, a non-voting position on the policy committee, and here we are, can't fill it. I'm willing to go as often as I can. Probably going to be like once a quarter is all I can get away with.
Do they meet?
Mr. Chair, they meet the third Monday and sometimes.
Third or fourth Monday, okay.
It's the fourth Monday of the month if we have a holiday. I could suggest that you have a pool, like.
A rotating.
Sort of.
Wants to attend the.
Just maybe like have 3 or 4 people, and if one person can't make it, they have the responsibility of contacting the others.
Okay.
To see who can make it.
It's an evening thing, right?
It's an evening thing, because if you're not consistently.
Time of days.
Sometimes you are. It's
6:30.
It's at 6 o'clock, but if on those months that it's on a holiday and it's the fourth Monday, then we meet after the GWRC board, and that's at 7:30.
Here's the yearly calendar. This is on our website.
There you go.
You go to it by going to calendar, and then you can see the month you could scroll, or you could just go down here for a printable calendar. That's what this pops up. They're coordinated, so the nights that are highlighted yellow are the same night as the GWRC board meeting. Other ones are Olympia.
Only one, it's the same.
So there's only one more for this 2023 year. That would be starting at 7:30. Every other one would start at 6, and then there's no meeting in July or December.
Okay. So what is the role of the BPAC representative on FAMPO's policy committee as you see it, Carrie?
So ideally, they would go there and they would speak during public comment on anything bike ped related or anything BPAC wants to tell the policy committee.
What is actually the role of the policy committee?
Policy committee is the advisory committee to FAMPO.
Basically like FAMPO.
It is
right?
FAMPO.
Yeah.
Yes, they're FAMPO's board.
They
We-
create the policy that makes all of those smart scales and everything that goes through
They make all decisions.
has to be approved by the policy.
Board, the GWRC board.
No, we,
FAMPO board.
so GWRC is GWRC's board. FAMPO is FAMPO's board.
Yeah, FAMPO's board, okay.
Well-
GWRC is 5, FAMPO is 3 with 2 non-votings.
Did I just say FAMPO is FAMPO's board? The policy committee is FAMPO's.
Well, the policy
Sorry.
committee is the board.
I had a convention a few weeks ago and I'm still not there. I'm still kind of being tested. So yeah, the policy committee is FAMPO's board. So they make the decisions.
They're the elected officials.
They're,
I mean, I'd be willing to be on that pool. That's fine.
Okay.
Do we have a,
Thank you.
King George rep on the FAMPO board? Because we're not part of it.
Our rep is non-voting.
yeah, our rep is non-voting and can be any.
Yeah, well, no, he's saying, yeah, like, it's
Kathy does.
Kathy, and she's non-voting, and Caroline's rep is non-voting.
What you meant by our rep.
Yeah, no, ours.
Yeah, no, I'm in.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd be willing to go, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, but or King George and Caroline, they get their projects and stuff done through GWRC board and not through FAMPO, which is why they're not voting.
Which is why that presentation she just did is going to the GWRC board and not the FAMPO board.
And I can be the absolute last person on the list. I'm here anyway, but if I'm in the room, they're not gonna see me as bike ped. So you're gonna get much more visibility if
Okay.
somebody else is in the room. But if you need me to read something out because nobody else is gonna be here, I will represent.
Okay, so if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, then we're good?
Right. Well, and Carrie, do you attend the FAMPO policy committee meeting?
Okay, but I'm, as staff.
I'm a voting member on this
Yeah,
committee,
see,
so.
I'm gonna be even, I can't really, I'm staff liaison
Right.
for BPAC. They wouldn't look at me as BPAC.
Okay.
I'm
I see.
a transportation planner for FAMPO, not gonna,
Say,
doesn't work.
I see.
Are you willing to be in the pool or not?
Yes, I am. A rotating gang of maybe the 4 of us. You said, are you every month off? You're not gonna,
We'll have to work on it, maybe.
on like a
Emergency situation.
like a basketball team or something like that?
Yeah.
All right. I'll see if my friend Aaron, since he's not here, I will see if he can attend as well. He's the city's
He'd be good.
representative, and very engaged and knows his stuff. So maybe we'll go for that. We'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, Aaron, and each of us goes quarterly, like 3 times a year. That's not bad.
So are you willing to be primary?
I think
We have-
we got Aaron
We have-
primary.
Basically, I'm the primary, and I can nominate an alternate
Okay,
myself.
That's how we wrote it, yeah.
right, but okay, I'm just saying the person who's most likely to attend.
Oh, so we name an alternate that is the most likely to attend.
So we say Aaron unless he tells you otherwise?
Yeah, sure. I'll put Aaron. All right. Okay.
Note to self, attend
Yeah.
all meetings.
I
Yeah.
would, I would like a person who
Yeah.
reminds them to be back in.
Right.
Yes, that's
Because
why.
they have a tendency to forget that BPAC exists.
oh, yeah.
So I would like somebody who speaks up.
But if nobody else is there, I will say what you want me to say.
Okay. All right. Well, wait. How are you any different than Carrie, though? Can you just describe?
Okay, so I am staff with GWRC,
Uh-huh.
but I'm here representing GW Ride Connect.
I see.
So I am
Okay.
a voting member here, but if I go into that room, they've seen me for over a decade as staff. They're not gonna see me as BPAC.
Right.
So it's much better if one of you all go.
Okay.
However, I'm gonna be here anyway, so if you need me, I'm.
Okay. All right. And then Lynn expressed interest, perhaps when her schedule softens up in the fall, of maybe getting worked into that pool. So we'll make sure we don't burn out any people.
So Mondays and Thursdays.
Maybe, yeah. So thank you for being up to that at least. Great.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for helping me there. All right, staff reports.
I don't believe I have any staff.
Okay.
Believe you have any staff reports?
All right, cool. Let's go around around the horn for member reports.
I just emailed you an image, if there's any way we can call it up for my report, that would be great.
Oh, all right.
I use yours.
Let me see what you've got.
In the meantime, Chris, why don't you give us your report?
I think is we've been working on this plan and Carrie's coming on Tuesday and hopefully the
All right.
doesn't.
Shoot. Yeah. All right.
I can't imagine.
Great.
Warmed them up for you. So.
Yeah. All right, Matthew Stafford.
Too many things going on. Transportation master plan is underway. Butler Road's corridor study is underway. A lot of things going on. We'll have, transportation alternatives for town projects, so we'll see what bike ped stuff we get out of that. I will mention, and Adam had asked me to provide a little bit of transportation master plan. We started our transportation master plan back last summer. And it is underway. It's the first iteration of a master plan for the county, essentially the master plan to plan for transportation improvements throughout the county and prioritize them based on a prioritization tool that we kind of construct with our consultant. So we're 6 months in. We did a survey. We got over 1,000 respondents on a public info map for needs throughout the county. And yeah, we are moving towards some stuff later on this spring with some more public involvement, potentially another survey. You guys will see some more stuff, including maybe some projects. So,
If you said Butler Road corridor, is that the east side or west side? Or does Butler Road change names when you hit one and go across?
change the names.
Okay, so you're looking at the Y in by the parks there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deacon Road to Route 1.
So you'll keep us up to date as anything happens. Great to know that
I'll
stuff.
provide you guys with information. I think we'll do public involvement. Hopefully, definitely involved with that.
What's the document going to look? It's going to be like a lot of maps.
Get to see.
You haven't seen it? I thought you're writing.
No. We haven't written the document yet. We're just doing analysis, so
Okay.
we'll figure that out.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Okay. Cool. What else we got? How about Jim?
Jim,
What
yes.
you got here?
Well, yeah, let's see, I got a couple items, at our last meeting, Carrie reported that the new, State Trails Office was currently hiring for, two jobs. Just got an email today that they have hired I think it's a lady, but I'm not sure, Torsha Bhattacharya, and to be the program manager for the office, the State Trails Office. And what's particularly interesting about her is she's hired from the Rails to Trails Conservancy. So she obviously has some interesting background. Did you get this?
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Brantley sent it to me.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit about the railroad trail, surprise. One of the interesting things that happened a couple of weeks ago, we have our winter half marathon.
Oh, yeah.
This year, for the first time ever, the military academies sent their marathon teams to run in this race, which was really cool. There were 65 of these young ladies and gentlemen, and they are good runners. One of our volunteers who was out on the course when they came by later on, she said they were speedy, but a local resident won the race. So that was so.
Yeah.
So we were happy to have them there. Hope they return. We think that they had a good time at the race and hope they'll be back. So The other thing that I had this illustration, Carrie, and thank you for calling up. The railroad trail, as we know, the last mile of the trail before you get to 301 was sold off about 25 years ago, way before anybody had any idea of a trail. Okay, the original guy who bought the railroad right of way from the railroad company, he bought it for underground utilities, period. He had no idea of a trail either. I would get out and walk around on it, me, a trail guy, light bulb never turned on in my head. So he sold off the last mile. This is the, let me think what I got here. This is the original rail bed here. 301 is over here, okay? And this has always been a sword of Damocles hanging over us. Well, this week, literally on Tuesday, they began clearing into the trail property for mini storage. Okay. So we went out there, guys running his machine, clearing trees. And they're going to clear the trail, which is the old railway. That will go away. And we talked to him, and we said, and he said, not to worry, I'm not going to touch the rail bed where the trail is until after a race that's coming up next week. He said, thank you. But the more promising part of it is that they are going to reroute the trail over to the north of the original trail. They're going to reroute it. So they tell us that they are going to keep the original railhead clear for the race coming up. And they have told us that they will have the new rerouted trail ready for the race a year from now. Okay. So it's probable that the trail will be cut at this point for about a year. But the good part about that is the developer is going to have a reroute trail. So.
And will they, I guess, put some nice new gravel on it and everything like that, make it, refinish it essentially?
We hope so. Yes. Yeah. They do. They took about they do call the rerouting of the trail a gravel trail. So.
Okay.
So we kind of hope that it'll be at least of the same quality that.
Right, and that's included. That's in the as-built, the plans for that development, right? So it's essentially it's proffered in, so you're protected from losing your right of way there, right? I hope.
Well, we lost the right of way when the original owners sold it 20 years ago. So ever since then, we've been using the trail with sort of a wink and a nod. The owners of this property. Now this property is where the Walmart is, my place, Holiday Inn Express, all of that development is kind of over here. But it's all part of it, and we've always known that sooner or later, somebody's going to plop something on the trail. But
do you have someone at the county who's going to bat for you to make sure that developer is going to leave some space for the trail, or is it more of just he's being nice?
There's
is it?
There's a couple things going on here. The trail is really not not a trail easement, okay? The trail is on top of a utility easement. The utility easement is in place. It's part of the plats and the deeds on way back. So basically our trail is really riding on top of the utility easement. But on this plan, and this is the plan that the county has approved, signed off on and everything, okay? So this is what the developer has told the county that he is going to do. So we think that he's under an obligation there. Now you might ask, well, Tim, why didn't he just have another unit that goes all the way over here? Okay. This right here is a ditch, big ditch. So we talked to him and we said, what about that? Is the trail a ditch? And he said, well, no, we're planning on filling in the ditch. So how cool is that? That's cool.
All right.
So we'll see.
All right.
But that's the plan.
Yeah, just a quick question. So you said the rerouting is not gonna, so it didn't affect the half marathon traffic, right?
It did not affect the half marathon traffic.
But it's gonna mess up,
Yeah.
it's gonna mess up the 50K. It's like usually in August.
50, let me think about it. It won't affect the 50K either because that begins at the western end of the trail.
Okay.
And the turnaround point doesn't reach this point here. Now, the race, and it's actually a trail run, it isn't actually a race, is an extremely popular run in the county called Sheets to Sheets. That's where runners run from the sheets that we were just talking about earlier, crossing the middle school, run up Route 3, get down the trail, and then run all the way to the sheets that's across from B Gate on Route 301. So if this reroute wasn't going to happen or didn't happen, that would pretty much kill that race. Okay, we think that the developer here, recognizes that the trails are popular, that races are real popular. That's why he says, I'm going to leave this alone until after the race next week, and the reroute will be in place, he says, before the 2024 race.
All right. Great. Thanks. Well, keep us updated if anything changes. We have to make some phone calls over to King George office. Might have to call in stormwater violation or something.
Something. That's all I had to talk about.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Lynn, Red Trails.
Off-road. We had an emergency at the quarry last week that we had to address that was not planned. We had a tree that came off the side of the quarry and it took the tread of Pole Pass West with it. So the tread ended up being about this big with another tree that was kind of rotten over it like this. And my secretary went out and taped it off and we kind of assessed the situation and thought about what to do quickly. So within 24 hours, the secretary went back out with the trail boss and we mined rock from the area, rock armored the side of the ridge of Pole Pass. And it's the only way to ridgeline if you guys know what I'm saying. I mean, you can go Pole Pass East, but I wouldn't. People downhill on that end. We say that it's one way, but we don't really have the authority to say it's one way. Then we filled it in. So after mining the rock and rock armoring, then we mined the dirt to put it back and made the tread way wider and then took some trees and took strips of log to keep the new soil now from eroding. Tamped all of that down for hours, and it's
Dedicated, multi-talented, staff you've got there.
Yeah.
it was a huge danger. As we were taping it off, there was a young man downhilling Pull Pass West and almost took out my secretary and himself into the quarry. So we were like, dude, stop.
Watch yourself.
So, I mean, you really can't fly down Pull Pass West anyway. That you usually have, people are usually climbing Pull Pass West. If you're gonna bomb, just if you're doing that, I recommend just go Pull Pass East. Just that's dangerous. So just know what you're doing. But we have, so that is reopened. It looks great. We put a post out to the public to let the community know that, look, that was noticed, addressed quickly within 24 hours. We went out, we have resolved those issues. We have put some conservation measures on the sides of Pull Pass West so it won't slough off anymore. And we just hope that no more trees fall off into the terrain with them, but we can't guarantee that. Now, we already have some, so April 1st, we have 3 days of the ROTC cadets from Spotsylvania County coming out. And our April 1st work day with the ROTC, that'll be with Riverbend High School. We're already going to do some conservation measures. We're going to put some nicks in further up so the water can run off the sides. We're going to widen that tread, and we're going to have them bring pavers in because they're heavy. And we're going to not pave, further up on Pole Pass where it is eroding. We've got some, not drops, but substantial roots that are exposed. It's not sustainable if the further up you go on Pole Pass. So we will try to paver that area, save the roots. The roots may have to come out. I don't know. I can't guarantee. But we will widen that tread and put in some erosion measures to make sure it will pass west, because that's busy. It's one of the busiest climbs in the quarry system. So.
All right. Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Always impressed by how Fred Trails can rally volunteers on like that. It's
Try.
impressive.
It was a lot of texts.
Yeah. All right. How about VDOT? Okay.
Be free from what feels like a week in between smart scale cycles. But
Mhm.
Stephen and Cassie from our office were at the lessons learned for smart scale round 5, 2 days in Charlottesville this past week. So I think that's the first time they've ever done a day as a central office for VDOT. Have ever done that, which is great because the end was sort of a, I can't respect.
Oh, yeah. I meant to say, you're a rock star. I was getting emails at midnight.
Yeah.
So
I stayed until
rock
I stayed
star.
Christmas Eve. I stayed. It was crazy. And I didn't go to this lessons learned, but Stephen brought me home a big old coffee mug, and they recognized me because I couldn't have done it.
That's rock star.
Well, I couldn't have done it without the folks there in Richmond going, okay, I'm gonna unlock these files, go ahead and upload and go ahead and mark them up and stuff right there with me, so. Yeah.
All right. Great. Enjoy your small amount of downtime.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I was gonna ask about that. 5 lemon stars
Here
or
we go.
Great.
But we do we're completely, but we're fully staffed.
I know it's been a while. Gosh, I forgot his name. I feel so bad.
Oh, Jake.
Jake. Oh,
Yeah, it's been a while since
Jake.
Jake left.
Jake used to be on BPAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jake Kerman, who is a pretty
Central
his Fredericksburg employee, went to Richmond district. And then I just found out like 2 weeks ago, he's now working with Chris Steffer, who does like sort of those studies that, they don't need to study, you have
Wait, I can do that?
Yeah, yeah. So one of those that we're doing now is where it did also count. So, there. So, good to have family there with someone who has access to some of the monies.
Great. All right, how about Ride Connect?
Yeah, so GW Ride Connect hired a new staff member, so we're fully staffed now, and we're very happy about that. We're also working on a strategic plan, which I may bring something to you guys later. We had a very rough numbers, and I hesitate to say this because I'm not certain these are correct, but we did a survey, and we had a single occupancy vehicle transportation, people who drive alone, of people who drive alone, 20% of them said that they would not, under any circumstances, consider any type of transit.
What percent?
20. That's like a flip from when I first started doing this. It was like, I don't know if that is true. I asked for the raw data so I can see if that's actually a true statement. But when I first started doing this, 80% of drive alone people would say, I won't consider it.
Wow.
So I just thought that was kind of amazing. Don't quote me on that in the minutes because I'm not sure if it's correct. But just very quickly, some of you might wonder what GW Ride Connect is doing here. We are the transportation demand management agency for this region, which means we try to do anything we can to get people out of driving alone, out of their single occupancy cars. That includes like train, van pools, car pools, but it also includes bike and ped. And so we advocate strongly for bike and ped, for the infrastructure and singing the benefits of it and trying to get people to rethink how they get around. And that's why we're here. So
Awesome. Thanks for all you do. Friends of the Rappahannock don't have any major updates, but we do have a lot of volunteer and other community events on our events calendar. So I think you guys, if you want to get outside, do something for the river, check out our website, riverfriends.org/events. And I think that's all, unless we have anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh.